The sun was merciless that morning, casting a golden glare over the wide stretch of farmland that looked almost forgotten by time. The air smelled of earth, sweat, and diesel. A young woman in spotless white sneakers and a silk blouse stood helplessly beside a broken-down car, her expensive sunglasses slipping down her nose as she stared at the endless countryside that surrounded her. Her name was Alina, a city girl through and through. She had never stepped foot on a farm before today, and now, stranded in the middle of nowhere with no cell phone signal and a dead car battery, she was learning the hard way that money couldn't fix everything instantly. Just beyond the dusty road, a rusted old tractor coughed and sputtered as an older man in worn jeans and a faded shirt fought with its engine. His hands were rough, covered in grease, his skin browned by years under the sun. Alina hesitated before walking toward him, the heels of her shoes sinking slightly into the dirt. She had no idea that this simple act, a desperate attempt to find help, would change her life forever. Yellow heart, before we continue, if you believe in kindness, second chances, and the beauty of helping others, please like, comment, share, and subscribe to I Am Kindness Corner. Your support helps more inspiring stories reach hearts around the world. Alina's voice trembled slightly as she greeted the man, asking if he had a phone or could help her with her car. The farmer looked up briefly, his deep brown eyes steady but quiet. His face showed both hardship and wisdom, the kind that comes from years of working the land and surviving storms, both literal and emotional. Without much talk, he wiped his hands, grabbed his old toolbox, and followed her toward the car. The sound of crickets and distant birds filled the silence between them. Her car, a luxury model that seemed completely out of place in that dusty road, had overheated. The farmer crouched down, opened the hood, and began checking connections. He didn't say much. Alina tried to make small talk, but every attempt faded awkwardly into the air. He seemed uninterested in her city stories, her business meetings, her brand of perfume. And yet, there was something about his calm presence that made her feel oddly safe. After a while, he managed to fix the car's issue temporarily. When Alina offered to pay him, he shook his head. "Just happy to help," he said softly, then turned back toward his tractor. It was then that she noticed, the machine wasn't running properly. It kept choking and stalling, and he looked tired, almost defeated, as if the machine's failure was one burden too many. Something stirred inside Alina. She had grown up surrounded by people who solved problems with money, not empathy. But this man, this stranger, had helped her without asking for anything. Watching him struggle to fix that old tractor, she felt a strange pull to return the favor. She had no idea how to fix machinery, but she couldn't walk away. She walked over again and asked if she could help. The farmer smiled faintly, a kind but doubtful expression, as if he didn't believe someone like her could get her hands dirty. Still, he didn't refuse. Together, they spent the next hour trying to get the tractor started. Alina's manicured fingers got covered in dust and oil, her white blouse was streaked with brown stains. Sweat clung to her skin, but she didn't care. For the first time in a long while, she wasn't thinking about deadlines, luxury, or social status. She was just living. When they finally got the tractor running, the man gave a small laugh, the kind that comes from deep relief. Alina couldn't help but laugh with him. The sound echoed through the open fields, like a small celebration of resilience and connection. She introduced herself properly, and he told her his name was Ethan. Over the next few days, Alina couldn't stop thinking about him. Something about the honesty in his eyes, the peace in that vast farmland, had stayed with her. So she did something uncharacteristic, she drove back the following weekend. She told herself it was just to thank him properly, maybe bring some new tools for his tractor, but deep down, she knew it was more than that. When she arrived, Ethan was working under the same tree, repairing a part of the plow. He looked surprised but smiled warmly when he saw her. She offered him lunch she had brought, sandwiches and cold lemonade, and together they sat beneath the open sky. He told her about his struggles, how years of bad harvests had put him in debt, how the droughts were getting worse, and how he might lose the land if things didn't improve soon. Alina listened quietly, her heart tightening with every word. That night, she returned to the city, but something inside her had changed. The world she lived in, the skyscrapers, parties, noise, suddenly felt shallow. All week, she thought about Ethan's quiet strength and the simplicity of his life. The next weekend, she went back again, this time determined to do something. She started helping him regularly, not just with the tractor but with small repairs around the farm. She learned how to plant seeds, fix fences, and manage irrigation. She traded her heels for boots and her designer bags for gloves. The city girl who once flinched at dirt was now laughing in the fields, her hair tangled with wind and sunlight. Ethan noticed the change too. He rarely said it aloud, but every time he watched her work with determination, a spark of admiration grew in his eyes. Still, there was sadness that lingered. Alina discovered through some papers in his shed that the land was under threat from a big development company planning to buy it out. The price they offered wasn't enough to save him. Ironically, the company was one her father's firm had invested in. She felt torn, between loyalty to her family's world and empathy for Ethan's. For nights she couldn't sleep, her mind battling between comfort and conscience. One evening, as the sunset painted the fields in orange and gold, Ethan sat on the porch and confessed that he might have to give up soon. The pain in his voice was heavy, but there was acceptance too. He said he'd had a good life, that maybe it was time to let go. Alina couldn't bear it. She left in tears, driving back to the city under a sky full of stars that looked like 1,000 silent witnesses. The next day, she made a decision that shocked everyone, especially her father. She confronted him, demanding to know if his company was the one buying the land. When he confirmed it, she pleaded with him to stop. At first, he laughed at her, thinking it was just another impulsive move. But when she told him about Ethan, about how he had helped her with no expectation, about his honesty and resilience, her father paused. For a moment, the businessman softened into a father who saw his daughter's heart. He finally agreed to let her handle the matter. Alina withdrew a large part of her own savings and, with her father's quiet approval, purchased the land rights herself. But she didn't tell Ethan. She wanted to surprise him. Weeks later, she returned to the farm. The season was changing, and the air was filled with the scent of freshly turned soil. Ethan was loading some equipment into a truck, preparing to leave. He smiled when he saw her but looked defeated. "Guess it's time," he said quietly. But Alina only smiled and handed him an envelope. When he opened it, confusion washed over his face. Inside were official documents, proof of land ownership, in his name. Ethan's hands trembled. "How?" he whispered. Alina looked at him, her eyes glistening. "Because people like you deserve to stay where their roots belong," she said softly. "This land is yours, always has been, always will be." For a long moment, Ethan didn't speak. Then, with tears welling in his eyes, he hugged her. It wasn't just gratitude, it was the silent acknowledgement of two souls who had found meaning in each other's worlds. From that day forward, Alina kept visiting, not as a stranger or a savior, but as a friend, maybe even something more. Together they planted a new season's crop, side by side under the wide blue sky. The tractor, the same one that had first brought them together, roared steadily across the fields, a symbol of resilience, unity, and second chances. Months later, as the crops swayed tall and green, the farm thrived again. People from nearby towns spoke about the young city woman who had helped restore a farmer's land. But only Ethan and Alina knew the deeper truth, that it wasn't just the land that was healed, but two broken hearts that had learned to hope again. Yellow Heart, if this story touched your heart, please don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe to I Am Kindness Corner. Every click helps spread real kindness and hope in a world that needs it. And before you go, we'd love to hear from you. Comment below. Sparkles, what does real kindness mean to you? Because sometimes, it takes just one act of compassion to change someone's whole story, or even their world.